There are memories you remember, and then there are memories that remember you. Mine always comes back the same way. A hot summer afternoon. The smell of eucalyptus after the heat. A cold glass of Milo with that thick layer floating on top. One sip, and I'm not 35 anymore. I'm 10. It's the summer of 1998, Blue Gum Creek. People think childhood disappears. It doesn't. It just hides in places you stop visiting. If you drove through Blue Gum Creek today, you'd probably call it just another quiet Australian town. A few weatherboard houses, one little creek, a dusty cricket oval, a corner shop, a road that seemed to lead nowhere. But when you're 10, your hometown isn't small, it's the whole world. Back then, our clocks weren't phones, they were streetlights. As long as we were home before they came on, life belonged to us. Every morning began exactly the same. The cicadas screamed from the gum trees before the sun had properly climbed into the sky. Somewhere a lawn mower started, somewhere else a sprinkler clicked to life. The whole neighborhood smelled of warm grass and eucalyptus. I'd grab my BMX, ride to Willow Street, and whistle twice outside the third house. 5 seconds later, the front door would burst open. Out came Mia, usually carrying a half-melted Zuper-Duper, wearing mismatched thongs and smiling like she'd already thought of today's bad idea. People always say one friend is the sensible one. That wasn't us. If Mia found trouble, I'd improve it. If I had a terrible idea, she'd turn it into a disaster. Looking back, I don't remember every afternoon. Nobody does. Memory isn't a photograph, it's a feeling. I remember scraped knees, dust on my socks, the smell of old timber inside our treehouse, the sound of cricket balls hitting rusty fences. I remember laughing until my stomach hurt, and I remember believing, with the complete confidence only children have, that life would always stay exactly like that. It never does. Every neighborhood has one house children turn into a legend, not because it's haunted, not because anything terrible happened there, simply because nobody knows the person inside. For us, that house belonged to Mrs. Hawkins. Her faded blue weatherboard home sat at the very end of Blue Gum Creek Road. The garden was perfect, bright flowers, neat hedges, tomatoes lined up in careful rows, and stretching across an old timber frame, the biggest passion fruit vine I'd ever seen. The fruit hung over the fence like little purple lanterns, close enough to see, far enough to never touch. At least, that was the rule. According to every kid in town, Mrs. Hawkins hated children. Oliver swore she'd chased him halfway down the street for stepping on her lawn. Noah insisted she'd yelled at him for kicking a football near her mailbox. Someone claimed she'd called the council because kids climbed the blue gum tree beside her fence. Was any of it true? I still don't know. When you're 10, truth doesn't matter. Stories do. And the longer a story survives, the bigger it becomes. So instead of being scared, we became curious. Every afternoon, Mia and I rode past her house pretending not to look, but we'd always slow down. Always. We counted the ripest passion fruit. We watched Charlie, although we didn't know his name then. To us, he was simply the dog. A golden dog, old, big, always asleep beneath the vine. He looked harmless, which somehow made him even scarier. One afternoon, we stopped outside the fence. Neither of us spoke for a while. The cicadas screamed overhead. A warm breeze rattled the gum leaves. Then Mia smiled. Not a normal smile, the dangerous kind. "I reckon," she whispered, "those passion fruit taste better than the supermarket ones." I looked at the vine, then at the sleeping dog, then at Mrs. Hawkins' silent house. Every sensible thought in my head told me to get back on my bike. Instead, I smiled. Only one way to find out. Mia's grin grew even wider. "No," she said, "not 1, 3. I laughed. "Why 3? "Because 2 isn't worth the risk and 4 is stealing." That made absolutely no sense. At 10 years old, it somehow sounded perfectly reasonable. So right there, standing beside our bikes, under a sky so blue it almost hurt to look at, we created what would become the greatest plan in Blue Gum Creek history. Or at least, that's what we called it, the Passion Fruit Mission. We spent 3 days preparing. Mia drew a map on the back of an old cornflakes box. It looked nothing like Mrs. Hawkins' yard. The dog was bigger than the house. The fence was in the wrong place. The passion fruit vine looked like a giant octopus. "It doesn't even look real," I said. "It doesn't have to," Mia replied. "It's a secret map." That was apparently enough explanation. We packed 1 potato sack, half a packet of jelly snakes, 2 sticks we'd convinced ourselves were equipment, and enough confidence to invade a small country. The plan was simple. Ride over after lunch, hide our bikes behind the blue gum trees, wait until the dog fell asleep, climb the fence, take 3 passion fruit, and leave before Mrs. Hawkins ever knew we were there. Simple plans have a funny habit of becoming unforgettable stories, and none of us knew that before the afternoon was over, 2 children chasing 3 stolen passion fruit would accidentally change 3 lives forever. The next afternoon arrived exactly the way every Australian summer afternoon does. The sky was cloudless, the heat shimmered above the road, even the magpies had disappeared into the shade. Only the cicadas refused to slow down. Their endless chorus echoed through Blue Gum Creek like the soundtrack of summer itself. At exactly 2 o'clock, Mia knocked twice on my bedroom window. That was our signal. No shouting, no phone calls, just 2 knocks and adventure was waiting outside. 5 minutes later, our BMXs disappeared behind a cluster of blue gum trees across from Mrs. Hawkins' house. The street was empty. No passing cars, no neighbours, no children. Even the wind seemed to be holding its breath. Mia crouched behind the fence like she was leading a military operation. "Status?" she whispered. I looked over the fence. "Dog asleep." She nodded seriously. "Mrs. Hawkins?" I looked again. Nothing. No visual. She smiled. "Perfect." Looking back now, we probably watched too many action movies. At the time, we genuinely believed we were professional thieves. I grabbed the potato sack. Mia adjusted the ridiculous cereal box map tucked in her pocket. Neither of us questioned why we still needed the map when we were already outside the house. Children don't think like adults. Confidence fills all the gaps where logic should be. I put both hands on the old timber fence. The wood felt rough beneath my fingers. Tiny splinters caught against my palms as I pulled myself up. For 1 second, I sat balanced on top of the fence. From up there, Mrs. Hawkins' garden looked even more beautiful. Tomatoes glowed bright red beneath the afternoon sun. Lavender danced gently in the warm breeze. Bees drifted lazily from flower to flower. Charlie slept beneath the passion fruit vine, completely unaware that 2 idiots were about to ruin his peaceful afternoon. I jumped. My shoes landed softly on the dry grass. I froze. Nothing. Charlie didn't move. I turned back. Mia was trying to climb over the fence. Halfway up, one of her thongs slipped off. She somehow caught it in mid-air, put it back on, and continued climbing like nothing had happened. She landed beside me. "So far," she whispered, "we're brilliant." I nodded. "Don't say that."
Why? Because every time you say something's going well, it stops going well. She rolled her eyes. "You're superstitious." "No, I've just met you." She punched my arm, trying not to laugh. Ahead of us, the passion fruit hung only a few meters away, close enough to smell, warm, sweet, almost glowing in the afternoon light. We'd imagined this moment for 3 days. Now it was real. I reached for the lowest fruit. Twist? Nothing. Another twist. Still nothing. Mia folded her arms. "You're doing it wrong." "Oh? You've picked lots of passion fruit before?" She shook her head. "No, but that's definitely wrong." I sighed. Very helpful. "I know." I reached a little higher. This one looked perfect. Heavy, deep purple, slightly wrinkled. exactly the way ripe passion fruit should look. I wrapped my fingers around it, twisted gently, and felt it begin to loosen. My heart started racing. We were actually going to pull this off. Then, crack! The dry branch snapped. It wasn't loud, but on a silent summer afternoon, it sounded like thunder. Every bird in the nearby gum trees exploded into the sky. Charlie opened one eye, then the other. He slowly stood up, stretched, and looked directly at us. Nobody moved. Not me, not Mia, not Charlie. For one impossible second, time simply stopped. Then Charlie's tail began wagging. "Oh," whispered Mia, "he looks friendly." Before I could answer, Charlie let out one enormous woof. We ran, not because he looked dangerous, because every 10-year-old knows once a dog starts chasing you, your legs stop listening to your brain. The potato sack bounced against my shoulder. Mia sprinted beside me, laughing so hard she could barely breathe. "Stop laughing," I shouted. "I can't," she yelled back. "This is amazing." "Amazing? We're being chased." "I know, that's the amazing part." She was completely impossible. Charlie charged after us, not with anger, with excitement. To him, this wasn't a robbery, it was the greatest game he'd played all year. I cut across the lawn. Big mistake. My foot landed on something hidden beneath the grass. A tiny metallic click. I looked down. Too late. Shh! The sprinkler exploded from the ground. A freezing jet of water hit me square in the chest. Before I could recover, another sprinkler burst to life beside Mia. Then another, then another. Within seconds, the entire garden had become a spinning maze of water. The grass turned slippery. The potato sack flew from my hands. 3 perfect passion fruit rolled across the lawn like runaway cricket balls. Mia lunged after one, missed completely. Her remaining thong shot off into the flower bed. She landed flat on her back, looked up at me, and burst into absolute uncontrollable laughter. I tried to stay serious. I lasted about 2 seconds. Soon, both of us were lying in the wet grass, laughing like absolute idiots, while Charlie bounced around us, thinking he'd just made 2 new best friends. That's when something strange happened. Charlie suddenly stopped barking. He sat down, his ears lifted. He looked past us. Still laughing, I turned around. Standing on the old wooden veranda, one hand resting against the screen door, was Mrs. Hawkins. She wasn't shouting, she wasn't angry, she wasn't even surprised. She simply looked at the 2 soaking wet children, the muddy potato sack, the 3 escaped passion fruit, and the happiest dog in Australia. Then she folded her arms, took one slow breath, and walked toward us. For the first time that afternoon, I wasn't worried about Charlie anymore. I was worried about Mrs. Hawkins. Mrs. Hawkins didn't say a word, not at first. The only sound was the sprinkler still sweeping across the lawn and Charlie happily chasing the water as if he'd completely forgotten we existed. She stopped a few feet from us, looked down at the muddy potato sack, then at the 3 passion fruits scattered across her garden, then at me. I opened my mouth. Nothing came out. Every excuse I'd prepared over the last 3 days suddenly disappeared. Mia tried first. We would just... She stopped. Even she knew there wasn't a sentence in the English language that could explain what we'd done. Mrs. Hawkins looked from Mia back to me and quietly asked, "Was this your idea or hers?" Without hesitation, I pointed at Mia. She immediately pointed at me. Mrs. Hawkins stared at both of us for another second. Then something completely unexpected happened. She laughed. Not loudly, just one short laugh she clearly hadn't planned. "You know," she said, "I've been watching you 2 ride past this house every afternoon for almost a week."
Mia blinked. "You knew?" Mrs. Hawkins nodded. "I also found your map yesterday." Our faces dropped. "The wind blew it into my roses." She paused. "I must say, it's the worst map I've ever seen." Even I laughed. Mia looked offended. "I worked really hard on that map." "I'm sure you did," Mrs. Hawkins smiled. "But according to your drawing, my dog is the size of a horse." Charlie chose that exact moment to roll onto his back, waiting for someone to rub his belly. Mrs. Hawkins pointed at him. "Does that look like a terrifying guard dog to you?" Charlie looked so ridiculous we couldn't stop laughing. She sighed. "I suppose introductions are overdue." She scratched behind Charlie's ears. "This lazy fellow is Charlie. He only chases children because he thinks every child has come to play with him." Charlie wagged his tail so hard his whole body moved with it. Just like that, the monster of Blue Gum Creek became the friendliest dog we'd ever met. Mrs. Hawkins bent down, picked up one of the fallen passion fruit and gently wiped the dirt away with her apron. Then she held it out to me. I didn't move. "I thought you'd be angry." "Oh, I was," she smiled, "until the sprinklers came on." "And then?" She looked around the soaked garden. "You two looked so spectacularly hopeless, I couldn't stay angry." Mia finally asked the question we'd both been terrified of. "So, are we in trouble?" Mrs. Hawkins pretended to think. A little." Our stomachs dropped. "But," she continued, "the punishment is helping me pick the ripe passion fruit properly." We looked at each other. "That's the punishment?" "Well," she smiled, "I could make you weed the tomatoes instead." "No," Mia answered far too quickly. Mrs. Hawkins laughed again. "Thought so." For the next 20 minutes, she showed us something we'd never noticed. You don't pull a passion fruit. She gently placed one in my hand. You wait until it's ready to let go. She twisted it once, the fruit dropped effortlessly into her palm. No force, no hurry. The best things always come away gently. I remembered those words years later for reasons that had nothing to do with fruit. When we'd filled the potato sack, Mrs. Hawkins looked toward the house. "You two like Milo?" Mia answered before I could. "We love Milo." "Good. Come inside." The house smelled exactly the way childhood memories should. Fresh bread, vanilla, old books. Sunlight spilled through lace curtains, painting little squares across the polished wooden floor. An old grandfather clock ticked softly in the corner. Everything inside felt warm, lived in, loved. Nothing like the scary house we'd imagined. Mrs. Hawkins disappeared into the kitchen. Cupboards opened, ice clinked into glasses, a spoon stirred chocolate powder. When she returned, she carried an old metal tray. 3 tall glasses of icy Milo, each topped with a thick layer of dry Milo, exactly the way every Australian kid secretly hoped it would be. Beside the glasses sat slices of fairy bread covered with colourful hundreds and thousands. Mia looked at me and whispered, "I think stealing fruit was the best idea we've ever had." Mrs. Hawkins heard every word. She smiled. "No," she said quietly, "knocking on the front door would have been." For a moment, none of us spoke. Then she slid the plate towards us. "You know, I've lived in this house for nearly 40 years, and today it's been louder than it's been in a very long time." There was something in the way she said it, something I didn't understand at 10 years old. The house suddenly didn't feel quiet anymore. It felt empty. Not empty because nobody lived there, empty because someone used to. That afternoon turned into evening without any of us noticing. We talked about school, cricket, the ridiculous summer heat, Charlie snoring beneath the kitchen table. Before we left, Mrs. Hawkins walked us to the front gate. She handed each of us one perfectly ripe passion fruit. Then she smiled and said, "Promise me something." "What?" "The next time you want passion fruit," she looked at the front gate, "don't climb the fence." She looked back at us. "Just knock." We promised, and for the rest of that summer, we never climbed that fence again, because from that day forward, we weren't visiting the house with the scary old lady anymore. We were visiting our friend.
The strange thing about routines is that you never notice they're becoming memories. Every morning, Mia and I chased another adventure. Every afternoon, we ended up at Mrs. Hawkins' front gate. And every single time, we knocked. Charlie always heard us first. His tail would start thumping against the veranda before we even reached the steps. Mrs. Hawkins would open the screen door, pretend to sound surprised, and say the exact same thing. "Oh, it's you two again."
Then she'd smile, as if she'd been hoping we'd come all along. Some afternoons we helped water the tomatoes. Other days we learned which herbs smelled strongest after rain. She taught us that kookaburras laughed before storms. She showed us how to tell the difference between a magpie's warning call and its morning song. She even taught us that the sweetest passion fruit weren't always the prettiest ones. The wrinkled ones, she'd say, have lived a little longer. Give them time, they're worth waiting for. Back then I thought she was teaching us gardening. Now I know she was teaching us life. One blazing afternoon, when the heat was too much even for Charlie, Mrs. Hawkins brought an old photo album onto the veranda. The cover was faded green. Its corners were worn soft by years of turning pages. She opened it slowly. Inside was a different blue gum creek. Unsealed roads, tiny gum trees, the creek before it shrank. Then came another photograph, a young woman laughing beside the very same blue weatherboard house. She wasn't Mrs. Hawkins, she was simply Margaret. Standing beside her was a tall man in an Acubra hat. His arm rested gently across her shoulders. He looked at her the way people look at someone they've loved for a very long time. "My husband," she said quietly, "Peter." The next page showed two children, a little boy chasing a football, a little girl with birthday cake all over her face. "Daniel and Emma," Mrs. Hawkins smiled. "They used to make more noise than you two." "I don't think that's possible," I said. She laughed. "Oh, it's very possible." For the next hour, the photographs became stories. Camping trips, backyard cricket, Christmas lunches, Peter burning sausages every summer because he refused to admit the barbecue was too hot, Daniel trying to catch fish with his bare hands, Emma convincing the neighborhood she'd seen a bunyip in the creek. Every story ended with laughter. Then, without warning, the stories stopped. Mrs. Hawkins closed the album. Her fingers rested gently on the cover. "They live in Melbourne now," she smiled. "They've got families, busy lives. I'm proud of them." There wasn't an ounce of bitterness in her voice, only love. And something else, something I didn't understand until years later. Silence. Children think loneliness means having nobody around. Adults know better. Loneliness is hearing laughter and realizing it's only an echo. Maybe that's why she never chased us away. Maybe that's why she made Milo before asking questions. Maybe she'd been waiting for someone to knock on that front door for much longer than we'd ever imagined. Summer never ends all at once. It slips away quietly. School shoes replaced bare feet. Homework replaced long afternoons. "We'll come tomorrow" became "we'll come this weekend," then "we'll come soon," until one day, without anybody deciding it, we stopped coming. Years passed. Blue Gum Creek became somewhere I used to live. Mia's family moved. University came, then work. Life filled itself with meetings, deadlines, traffic, and calendars that seemed always full. Sometimes I'd buy a tin of Milo. Sometimes the smell would pull me back for a second. Then the phone would ring or another email would arrive, and childhood would quietly disappear again. Almost 30 years later, work brought me back to Blue Gum Creek. The meeting finished early. I should have driven home. Instead, I found myself turning down a familiar road. The old bridge was still there. Mr. Collins' corner shop had become a cafe. The gum trees were taller. Everything looked smaller, except the memories. Mrs. Hawkins' house stood exactly where it always had. Fresh paint, a new fence, children's toys scattered across the lawn. Another family lived there now. The passion fruit vine was gone. Charlie was gone. The old veranda looked different, but the blue gum tree was still standing. I walked over, placed my hand against its rough bark and closed my eyes. For one perfect moment, I heard it all again. The sprinklers, Charlie's bark, Mia laughing so hard she couldn't breathe, Mrs. Hawkins calling us inside before the Milo got warm. "You must be Jack." I opened my eyes. An elderly neighbour stood by the fence. "I haven't seen you in years."
He disappeared into his garage, then returned carrying a small wooden box. Margaret asked me to keep this in case the boy who tried stealing 3 passion fruit ever came back. My hands trembled as I lifted the lid. Inside lay the old red cricket ball. The leather was cracked, the stitching had faded, exactly as I remembered. Beneath it, a folded note. I unfolded it carefully. Dear Jack, if you're reading this, you finally remembered the way home. Thank you for filling an old house with laughter again. Children think old people teach them everything. The truth is, you and Mia taught me that life can begin again, even after it becomes quiet. And thank you for keeping your promise. You always knocked. Whenever life feels too busy, make yourself a cold Milo. Sit somewhere peaceful and remember that the sweetest things in life were never hanging on the vine. They were the people standing beside it. With love, Margaret. I must have read that letter 10 times, not because I couldn't understand it, because I wasn't ready to finish it. That evening, I drove home with the little wooden box beside me. I stopped at a supermarket, bought a tin of Milo, filled a tall glass, added far too much chocolate, left that thick layer floating on top, exactly the way she used to. I carried it outside, sat in silence, and took one sip. It's funny. People spend their whole lives chasing bigger houses, better jobs, more money, thinking that's where happiness lives. Mine was waiting inside a cracked cricket ball, 3 stolen passion fruit, a barking golden dog, and an old woman who chose kindness when she had every reason not to. If you're listening to this, I hope this story reminds you of someone, a neighbor, a teacher, a grandparent, a friend you've been meaning to call. Don't wait, because one ordinary afternoon can quietly become the memory that carries you through the rest of your life. And if you ever find yourself driving through a small Australian town and you pass an old weatherboard house with flowers blooming out the front, slow down, knock on the door. You never know. The greatest treasure waiting inside might not be the house or the garden or even the passion fruit. It might simply be a person waiting to hear laughter one more time. That was the last summer I ever spent at Blue Gum Creek. But every time I make a glass of Milo and leave that chocolate layer floating on top, I realize something. Some summers never really end. They just wait patiently for us to remember them.